Where's the University of New Brunswick? It's anywhere our students are immersed in their fields. It's wherever they're using hands-on learning to solve real-world problems. It's where we help you find your future. Where's the University of New Brunswick? It's anywhere our people are finding solutions for tomorrow's problems. It's wherever they're making a difference right now. It's where we help you find your future.
Welcome, everyone, to the first of our Fireside Chats with UNB President, Dr. Paul Mazerolle, and Alumni President Peter Syroid. I am neither of those people. I am the Executive Director of the Associated Alumni, McNeil, and I'm pleased to be your host for this evening. The two videos that we just shared with you before we started were from UNB's new advertising campaign, UNB is Here. And we wanted to share those videos with you, one, because we're proud of them and wanted you to share in that pride, but also because this campaign is particularly relevant to you as alumni. The idea behind the campaign is that UNB is wherever our people, whether that's students, staff, faculty, retirees, or alumni, are making positive change in their communities and the world. And we know many of you do that every day, and we'd love for you to share your stories with us. You can email them to us at alumni@umb.ca. And just tell us about how you might be changing the world, or someone that you know from UNB is changing the world. We'd love to hear your stories and be able to share them more widely. So thank you for joining us tonight. We are grateful to the staff at the WU Conference Center here on the UNB Fredericton campus for hosting us tonight. I don't know about Peter and Paul, but for me, this is the first time that I have done an event outside of the comfort of my own home in the last eight months. And it was really fun to get ready and come out in public and see colleagues this evening. And we're grateful to the staff at the WU Center for helping to make sure that we're doing the event safely, following the COVID protocols and restrictions that were assigned to the WU Center. So thank you to the team here. Before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that the UNB campus sits on traditional Wolastoqey land. Lands of Wabanaki people were recognized in the Peace and Friendship Treaties to establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between two equal nations. And as we sit in the WU Center tonight, the river that runs by us just to the north is the Wolastoq, along which live the Wolastoqey, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. So tonight's event is really a chance for myself and UNB President and Association President to meet you, our alumni. In a traditional year, we would have been on a bit of a roadshow for the last several months, traveling all over Canada and the States and to some countries where we have some alumni living to talk about UNB and to hear your stories. And of course, we've been grounded for the last 8 months or so here in New Brunswick. And while it's a lovely place to be grounded, we would really rather be out there meeting you and engaging with you. But one of the silver linings to being virtual tonight comes when I review the registration list for tonight's event and the one we have next week, and see that we really are able to bring people together from all over the world for these events. I was so pleased to see people from almost every province in Canada, many states in the US, and even countries as far away as Germany, Botswana, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and our friends down in Trinidad, who we would normally be visiting next month, but of course can't. It was really great to see all of you registered between tonight and next week's event. So it's really great to be able to bring everyone together from all over the world. So we have about an hour together tonight, and to start the evening, Dr. Mazerolle and Mr. Syroid will speak to you about UNB's vision toward 2030 and the association's vision through our alumni engagement strategy. And after they've talked a little bit about that, it will be my pleasure to take your questions. So I do encourage you to use the Q&A section of the Teams platform that we're using tonight to submit any questions you have. They can be about anything to do with UNB or the association, and I will do my best to get to as many of them as I can this evening. I also encourage you throughout the evening to use the chat function to say hi to one another and tell us where you're joining us from. So it is now my pleasure to introduce to you UNB's 19th President and Vice Chancellor and a proud UNB alumnus, Dr. Paul Mazerolle.
Thanks, Michelle, and good evening, alumni. Good evening, Peter. Great to see you as well. It's a real pleasure to speaking to our alumni this evening, and in my time allotted, I want to talk to you a little bit about one of the main things we've been doing at UNB for the last year or so, and that has been developing and indeed finishing up our new strategic vision, UNB toward 2030. So I want to talk a little bit about that, what are some of the key aspects of that, why we're really excited about it, and also how we're working through that in the context of the COVID-19 global pandemic as a as a university trying to deliver for our community, indeed, working hard to change the world. So our plan started, in fact, long before I came to UNB. Michelle and others were involved with a very comprehensive effort of engaging the UNB community and its many stakeholders in trying to understand what kind of university we want to be, indeed, what priorities and activities we want to undertake in this next phase of our evolution as a university. The plan that we've come up with, UNB towards 2030, is an incredibly ambitious and exciting vision. There's a lot of hard work that went into it, but it's really landing into some very aspirational goals for the University of New Brunswick. And so the focus in the main is on growth and impact as a university. So how do we grow our programs? How do we grow our research footprint? How do we grow students? We think UNB is a fantastic place to come and study and undertake graduate research. And so we want more students to do that. But we know that we need to also grow our partnerships to really deliver on our mission, which is kind of to change the world, and the other to make a difference in the world. So, and as a university, we're really focused on that focus. How do we translate our knowledge? How do we disseminate our knowledge? And how do we tell a better story about what's happening at the University of New Brunswick? So it's an aspirational vision, and it's all focused on how do we make a difference and how do we work together to make that difference. We have a brand new vision, and I just want to share with you what the actual vision says. It says, we aspire to be a university of influence through excellence and innovation in research and teaching to enable positive social change across our communities. So it's a very forward-looking vision, and it involves working together, underpinning that as excellence and impact, and making a difference in the world. Another important aspect of our strategic vision is our commitment statement. We're heavily committed to truth and reconciliation. And the actual term that's used is called Bulawita Wazawagan, which translates to mean allowing your thinking to change so that action will follow in a good way towards truth. And so as a university community, we're heavily committed to working in partnership with our Indigenous colleagues, elders groups, local communities, and in having that walking towards a better truth underpinning all aspects of our strategic vision. So what I want to talk to you a little bit about is what's in the plan. What are some of the aspirational components? And there's really 5 pillars of the plan that we're focusing on as a university community. And I'll just quickly mention them in the time that I have. So the first is about research impact, and I'll come back to that. But in the main, we want to build more knowledge to have more impact in the world. Secondly is around delivering transformative education for the future. And UNB has always been a university that puts students at the center of everything it does, but we want to accentuate that transformative experience. We want to expand experiential learning, and we want to attract as many students as we can come to New Brunswick into the university so that they can experience what's happening here on our campuses in St. John and Fredericton. The third pillar is focus on engagement and impact. And we know that for us as a university community to be successful, we can't go it alone. We have to work with other universities. We have to work with community. We have to actually also work with the business community and with government to really work together to drive initiatives, be they in research, education, professional learning, or other ways that we try to shape a positive community. Fourthly is what's called a people-centric, values-informed community. And so what that means is we're in the people business. We also have to be led and informed by our values. We have to support the people of UNB, the students, the staff, the faculty, the alumni, so that they can develop and realize their own personal and professional goals. And so we need to support our people to be the best that they can be. And the fifth component is what's called a modern, sustainable, and integrated University of New Brunswick. And so that talks about our responsibility in climate change recognition, sustainability, the stewardship of understanding what our carbon footprint is, and how do we work towards that space to be a more environmentally informed institution and do our part. But it also involves economic sustainability, and so that if we need more students at the university, we need to attract more students so that we can work better together as a university community, have more people experience the University of New Brunswick, like all of you did as alumni. I want to touch a little bit on some aspects of the research pillar. we see the University of New Brunswick as pivoting towards some what we're calling grand challenges as some of our focus for our research and impact pillar. And so the University of New Brunswick has a number of areas of strength and uniqueness, but we want to build upon those and scale them up. And we also want to identify on the importance of translational research opportunities toward driving social change and doing public good. And so we've identified that if we can reimagine some aspects of our academic research community and invest in these discernible areas of strength, we think that we can make a material difference on these grand challenges. And I'll share with you what we're thinking in that space. So the 4 grand challenges that we've come up with are firstly energy, secondly water, thirdly security, and fourthly healthy community. So as it relates to energy, we think as a university we have research strengths in fostering energy systems for the future. And that's going to allow us to focus on things like small modular nuclear energy research. It's going to enable us to look at innovative smart grid research, but a whole other bunch of interdisciplinary researchers working in clean energy or other kinds of issues which affect our energy planning and footprint for the future. There's a lot that we can be doing in that space. The second one is about water. University of New Brunswick has strengths in rivers research, marine research, but all told, if you think about an important aspect of the world is about clean water, fresh water, access to water. And so this spans scientific research, but also legal research, social science research, et cetera. So focusing on water systems in the future is another grand challenge we want to take on. Thirdly is around health, a healthy community. Our economic reality, our social reality, and our cultural connectedness as a community is heavily influenced by our health. And so we have an opportunity to be raising global health, looking at health across the community, physical health, mental health. And we've got great nursing programs, kinesiology, biomedical engineering, but collectively, kinesiology programs, collectively, we want to make an impact on driving reform in the health system. And lastly, security. And so health, economic realities, cultural connectedness is all affected by security. And so we have got a number of researchers working on different aspects of security, cybersecurity, food security, things like human security, people doing work on violence against women and children, domestic violence prevention. So collectively, as a university community, we think we can really have an impact at driving security-related research as well. And all of this is aimed towards translation. How do we take our knowledge, build knowledge, translate it towards better policy, better programmatic outcomes, informing the community? So we're really excited about one aspect of our research plan, about raising our awareness and our impact in the research space. I want to say a couple of words about what's happening in the here and now. So obviously, our strategic vision is very ambitious. We had it formally approved in February. We had a launch date in March, and something happened in mid-March. We experienced a global pandemic, and so we didn't have the formal launch because as a university community, we needed to work very hard to pivot our university so that we could still deliver our programs with and through the challenges of COVID-19. And so we've done that. So we spent several months reorientating the university and dealing with these more immediate challenges, but we haven't lost sight of our commitment to the strategic vision. We are implementing aspects of it this year. We're expanding online education. We're developing micro-credentials. We're looking at how we tell our story better and louder to the world. And we're looking to engage across all aspects of the strategic vision. So we're very excited. But we're managing the challenges that the whole world is facing through COVID-19. And in particular, the university community has some unique challenges as well. But in terms of the UNB focus, we want to be a university that doesn't just change the world. We want to be a university of influence. And we see that we have a responsibility to play, particularly in New Brunswick and the wider region, about what can we do? What's our part in thinking about the global challenges with COVID-19, but also the local challenges? How can we make a difference in fostering the post-pandemic recovery when it happens? And there's probably 3 areas where we think we can make a material difference here in New Brunswick. And they are, firstly, many people have been disrupted economically through the pandemic. They've lost jobs. They haven't been able to go to work. They might be affected because they have members of their community or their family who have health issues. And so we recognize there's an opportunity for people to access university education through online courses or micro-credentials. We want to focus on upskilling and reskilling the local workforce, people in the professions, people in government. So we see there's a role to be played there. Secondly, many industries and businesses are having to pivot and cope with the realities of the global pandemic. And so they have to adapt and change. We have many students who are looking for experiential learning opportunities, and they are well prepared to be working with new businesses about how they can pivot to virtual business services. And we've had some success over the summer with our students. But more than that, we have researchers doing work on entrepreneurship, doing work on applied innovation, additive manufacturing, off-site production. We think that the university has a real role to play at helping to drive kind of innovation in economic industries and industries across the province. So strategic innovation, driving productivity, et cetera. And lastly, one of the areas that we think we can make a difference is around healthy communities, working with government and others about fostering innovation in the healthcare sector. And we think in terms of dealing with things like global pandemics, public health, mental health, we have a role to play working with government and business to say, how do we all improve? How do we work better together and make a commitment to community? So I'll wrap up. I'm probably out of time. I could talk all night, but we want to hear from you. But I'll finish by saying we've got a really strong, ambitious plan. We're excited to keep talking to you about it and sharing with you our successes. We know that we don't do this alone. So our success is your success. And we're excited to reconnect in the future, whether it's face-to-face or virtually. So thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Paul. I always enjoy hearing you bring the vision to life whenever you talk about it. I learn something new every time I hear you speak about it. When I first moved into the alumni office, it was an interesting time because you were just wrapping up the vision, putting the final touches on it. And one of the first things the association asked me to do was to help write the strategy for the association for the next 5 years. They had been consulting for about a year, and they were ready to sort of move it forward and finalize it. So it was a really great opportunity for us to build on what you had articulated in the vision and make sure that we were doing what we could to support your vision. So now I would like to introduce to everyone the president of UNB's Associated Alumni, Peter Syroid.
Thank you, Michelle. It's really nice to be here with you, Dr. Mazerolle, to talk about the future of UNB and also the future of the UNB Associated Alumni. So I'd just like to say that the last year for the Associated Alumni has been sort of a year of transition. We had a successful executive director search, and our executive director is sitting to my left. We also signed a new 5-year memorandum of understanding with the university, or memorandum of agreement, between our organization and UNB. And we also implemented our new, basically enacted our new strategic plan, which we call the UNB Associated Alumni Engagement Strategy. And that's something that we're trying to build on our last plan. It's a 5-year plan that was outgoing in 2019. And that was really informed heavily by the results of our engagement, alumni engagement survey. And that you may have seen last year. We had thousands of responses. We also had focus groups in the past, over the past summer, that really kind of helped enrich the information that we received from that survey. And both of those items really heavily informed our plan and also how we're implementing that plan going forward. So what I'd really like to talk about tonight is a little bit about who we are, what we do, kind of the vision for the association, and what we're currently working on since we've implemented our new strategic plan since this past June. So a little bit about who we are. The Associated Alumni was founded in 1862 by a group of graduates who wanted to promote sound education and the advancement of the interests of the university. It's 158 years later. We're still working on those interests. We now have over 92,000 members all over the world. And the demographics of our membership are changing. For instance, 50% of our membership now graduated in the year 2000 or later. So if you're like Paul and I, who graduated the last century, you're a little behind the curve in terms of our membership. So our organization's mission is to nourish pride, amongst our alumni, and also to foster connections between alumni, our current students, and UNB itself. And if we have an engaged and inspired alumni community that's interested in the life and well-being of UNB, then we're being successful in our mission. We have an alumni council of amazing volunteers who set the strategic direction for our organization. And we also have a fantastic office staff of 9. Our organization also contributes financial support to our future alumni, which is our current students. And we do that through scholarships, bursaries, sponsorships, and the like. Scholarships in last year alone were over $100,000 of support. So I guess moving on to what we do and the vision for our organization with our new plan. And we have what we do, it can be encapsulated under our 3 pillars as part of our new engagement strategy. And that would be celebration, connection, and contribution. And I'm going to speak a little bit to each one of those pillars and what we're working on. So under celebration, one of the visions of, or one of the goals of UNB 2030 is to make sure that we're telling our story. And that's something that our organization couldn't agree with more. So we're really trying to tell the story of UNB by celebrating the accomplishments and success, the success of our alumni. And you probably know already that we do that with certain type of events, namely our Proudly UNB Awards program that we hold each year. We also celebrate the success of our alumni through our alumni news magazine and our alumni news direct e-newsletters that now come out monthly. And with feedback from our survey, we've actually refreshed our alumni news magazine for the coming edition in this December that will be released. And alongside of that refresh of the magazine, we're actually launching a dynamic digital platform as well that will have everything that's in the actual magazine, but we'll also have enhanced content such as video and audio and some tailored content for our under 35 audience. So one of the things that we actually learned about through our survey is that those that are under 35 and our membership are not necessarily interested in the print magazine anymore. So the digital copy of the magazine will become their primary copy of the magazine going forward, with the option to opt into a print version if they so desire. Another way that we celebrate UNB and our alumni is through our social media accounts. We are much better informed now through our survey in terms of how those accounts are being used by our membership. So that's something that we are working on content that is something that you would like to see, particularly for our LinkedIn page. We will have a lot more programming associated with professional development and networking, because that's what some of our younger audience is looking for from their association. And actually, coming in the future, we're looking at having a large or a broad communications platform that will allow you to tailor the content that you want to see, how you see it, where you see it from, and will really be able to use artificial intelligence based on your inputs, much like Netflix and Amazon does in terms of making sure that you're seeing the content that you're interested in. And one other thing that's actually in development that our office is working on is UNB Alumni app, so that basically anything that comes from our particular office will be right at your fingertips on your phone. So moving on to our connections pillar, what we try to do is provide opportunities for alumni to connect with each other, with UNB, and also with current students. And we've done this in the past through many different types of activities like our homecoming events, our chapter events, professional development such as career talks as part of our young alumni program, educational type of seminars. That's something where we want to continue to do that when we can. But some of the feedback that we received on the survey was that some of the barriers associated with not attending those particular events are things like the time involved or the distance away from our campuses. Or perhaps you are interested in networking or professional development type of activities, but you're not really sure if you're going to know anyone at the events. So, unfortunately, we can't hold events during the pandemic, in-person events, but we really see that as an opportunity to kind of pivot our programming to provide more online type of and virtual type of events that you can enjoy in the comfort of your own home at the time that suits you best. So we've been doing that already, and you might have seen this past summer that we had an evening of comedy with James Mulliger, which was a really successful event. Or we have an upcoming event in the winter, which is a virtual beer tasting event. And I'm told that the beer will be real, but the event will be virtual, and that will be with alumni-led breweries or alumni-owned breweries. Or we have other alumni-led. We're launching a series of alumni-led webinars and podcasts and blog posts that you can enjoy from home and stay connected that way. And then we also have our 10,000 Coffees network that we're actually working on enhancing as well. And that's something where if you have an area of expertise that you'd like to be able to mentor students or fellow alumni, that I really encourage you to sign up for that particular program. It's really amazing. So moving on to what's under our contribution pillar, we've heard from alumni many, many times that they really do want to give back to UNB, but they're not entirely sure what might be the best way to do so. And that's something that we're working on ways to make sure that we can help you with that. For instance, whether it be volunteering your time, we're working in the coming year to have a volunteer program where you can tell us exactly what you might be interested in, and we can provide an opportunity for you to perhaps volunteer in a certain way. Or whether it be through knowledge and expertise that you've developed over your career. Again, this is something where, part of UNB 2030, a goal is to provide each student with the opportunity for an experiential education. And this is something where we're working with faculties in order to be able to find out ways that actually UNB might be able to enhance the education of our students and also for our fellow alumni. And we're actually seeking out alumni who have that knowledge and expertise, who might be interested in providing a seminar or a webinar, a blog post, or something like a special interest topic, to our students and to fellow alumni. And then finally, there are times when our alumni are inclined to give a financial contribution to the students or to UNB, but they're not really sure what the best way to do that is. So we work closely with Development and Donor Relations Group in order to make sure that you have the information that you might need and that you can make the impact that you're looking for any kind of financial contribution. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview of who we are and kind of what we do, the vision that we've got associated with our new engagement strategy. And I would say over the next 5 years, we're really looking to broaden and deepen the relationships that we have with our alumni and really kind of pull in the same direction as UNB and towards UNB 2030.
Great. Thank you so much, Pete. I've had to present that a number of times in the last several months, so it was really lovely for me to listen to someone else talk about that. That was great. Did a great job. So now we're going to move to the question and answer period. We do have a few questions to start with. So I think I'm going to start with you, Paul, and just ask if you can touch a little bit on how you think that our alumni, we have 92,000 of them living all over the world, how they might be able to work with the university to support the vision that you outlined. It's a bold, ambitious vision, and you're going to need some help. So how can alumni contribute? Well,
that's a great question. Thanks, Michelle. And I think it recognizes that we recognize we can't do it alone. We have to be working in partnership, and the chance to engage with 92,000 of our alumni, I didn't know it was up to 92,000, is really exciting. In part because of what Peter suggested, that reaching out to our alumni colleagues and saying, hey, do you want to connect with us? Do you have a business, or do you work in a place where you could perhaps host a a student who wanted to do an experiential learning or work integrated learning, and they could be in all over Canada for some of those opportunities. I think that's a terrific idea, and we'd want to celebrate that opportunity. But I guess there's other ways as well. We are ambitious under this plan, and we will be looking for opportunities to partner with organizations. We'll be looking to helping people tell our story. So one of the things I've found at a university like UNB, and we're not a large university by global standards, but we are complex, and there's these kernels of amazing things happening, but trying to find out what's happening. And so when we can find out, the achievements of our students and our faculty, we want to let you know as the alumni so you can actually celebrate our achievements as well. And I guess finally also is there's what I found moving back to Canada, and particularly with the Maritimes, networks are so important. And the kinds of opportunities that can come back to the university because so-and-so had a good idea and they reached out to so-and-so who they knew at the university. We want all of those 1,000 points of light, to borrow an old political term from George Bush, those 1,000 ideas to come forward, and we'll look for those opportunities to pursue in partnership. So I think it's a great resource for UNB, the alumni.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of the many reasons I wanted to work in this area with help to achieve that vision. So Peter, I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit. You've been volunteering for quite a while with our Alumni Council and in other ways. You've been part of the life and success of UNB for a long time. What made you want to do that? Like, why are you involved? Why are you now serving as our president of the association?
That's a great question, Michelle. I guess it comes back to I got to a particular point in my career when I felt like I had a lot to be thankful for, especially with what UNB had provided. So I saw what the Associated Alumni Council was doing and the work that they were doing, and I felt compelled to become involved. And it was something where I took so much away from my experience at UNB over a number of years that it really kind of felt like I wanted to give back in some way. And at the particular time, I felt like my time volunteering with the Alumni Council felt like the right move at the time. And now that I've been involved with them for a number of years, I really feel passionate about the work that's done in terms of taking taking students who have been at UNB for a short period of time, but who are still connected with UNB for the rest of their lives, and really kind of the work that was done to connect those alumni with each other, to give back to current students, to work with UNB directly was something that I'm enormously proud to be able to continue to do.
We're certainly grateful that you've chosen to give back in that way. It's been great getting to work with you for the last year or so. I'm just wondering if we have any questions from the audience. Just going to look up and see that. So we have one question for you, Paul, about your return to UNB. So you left UNB in 1989 and spent a long time in the United States and Australia, and then we were so fortunate to have you choose to come back. So similar to the question for Pete, I'm just wondering if you can tell us a bit about what inspired you to do that.
What inspired me to come back?
Yeah.
Certainly not the weather. Just so everyone knows, I spent 2 decades in Australia, and the weather is pretty good there. But so I had to readjust to the winter last year. But look, it's a privilege to come back home, come back to Canada, come back to my home institution, which, to borrow what Peter said, has given so much. So we talk about the university providing transformative opportunities for students. It did for Peter. It did for me. It does for many of our alumni, and so it did shape my future in very positive ways. And I think I had a successful career prior to coming back to UNB. But this is a wonderful privilege to come back to your alma mater and to say I can work with others to help lead it to its next future. So I was motivated by the opportunity to come back and to do some good. But I guess the second thing for me is I believe strongly that universities exist to change the world. And so I see universities generally, and UNB in particular, as from an instrumental standpoint, meaning we're an instrument for social change. So we can drive economic futures, we can drive or inform and enhance social futures, cultural futures. And so that's a real privileged opportunity to say, how can we do even more of that? How can we do better? You know, because I've been saying for the last year the world needs more UNB, and I believe that. But, you know, if we can sharpen our research and our teaching and inspire people, I mean, I believe education is also transformative. And for me, it's not all about filling the bucket. It's about lighting a fire. So if we can light a fire for these students, we can help them change the world. That's what's inspired me to come back and do this.
Great. So the next question is also for you, Paul, and you touched on it a bit when you were talking about Bilawida Hasawasawagan and our commitment to truth and reconciliation. But could you talk a little bit more about some of the efforts that are going on at UNB related to equity, diversity, and inclusion and truth and reconciliation, some of the things that are happening right now that people might be interested in?
Sure. No, it's a really it's a big question. It's an important question, Michelle. So we are, obviously, this is a space that UNB has been committed to for quite some time, but we wanted to make it a more central plank in our strategic vision. And by saying that, we want to invest in the important initiatives that support equity, inclusion and diversity, and truth and reconciliation. We have a truth and reconciliation plan, and we're looking to advance that. And there's many strands to that, but in the main, it includes things like providing more opportunities for students from First Nations communities, providing more employment opportunities for staff and faculty, also looking for things like Indigenous research, getting more research chairs. And so we have an opportunity to raise participation rates. I think is really important. The other opportunities that we have is looking at what's called indigenizing the curriculum. And so having more people who study at the university come to understand and have their awareness raised around First Nations culture, history, various issues which are important. So we're excited about that. As it relates to, and there's lots of things we can also talk about, like we have a wonderful Mi'kmaq Wolastoqey Learning Center, but we want to expand that. We want to have what's called a Wabanaki Learning Center, which is a kind of a gathering place for community. And so there can be events, and it's about pastoral care for our students, but it's also about coming together as one community, learning from each other. I think so we want to walk the walk stronger in that space. But as it relates to things like equity, diversity, inclusion, so we're heavily committed to professional development under our strategic plan. We want to give professional development opportunities so we have more female leaders across the university. I think that's really important. We want everyone to feel part of the university community. And so we know members of some of our community, struggle. So we want to make sure that we have support services in place. So this is an important journey. And so we're committed to it. But not just by saying it, but trying to put in actions in place and by doing. So it's a long answer to an important question. I mean, we actually have a committee also looking at some of the names on our buildings and our rooms and roads across the university. And this led to a recommendation to take someone's name off our law building recently. And that was an important work, and it speaks to these values of supporting equity, inclusion, and diversity. Last thing I'll say is that as part of our commitment to raise awareness on these issues, we've put in place kind of a presidential supported speaker series that are looking at things like discussions around treaties, Orange Shirt Day, issues around violence against women, issues which affect the LGBTIQ plus community. So as part of a range of, so rather than having sporadic events, let's have an event every 6 or 7 weeks, but it's part of our commitment to raise discussion and dialogue. Because we don't want to just we want to be a university of influence. We have to do it by raising our voice and engaging with others on these important topics.
I'm looking forward to that series. It will be important to raise our own voice, but also help other people to have their own voice at that table. So that will be an interesting series. Pete, we have a question for you next. It's from Haley Bungay, who's one of our young alumni. I dropped a little package off at her house a few weeks ago. Hi, Haley. Each year, the young alumni group grows, as you mentioned in your remarks. How do you plan to keep in touch with them and keep them engaged in the UNB community?
Well, first of all, I'll say hi, Haley, because I know Haley as well, and she's fantastic. Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think it goes back to kind of what I talked about or mentioned earlier with respect to some of the demographics changing, and Haley's absolutely right. The young alumni group within our membership is growing, and actually, we're having almost 50% would be, or close to 50% would be considered young alumni, and it's very true that alumni across the different stages of the life cycle of being alumni are looking for different things. So, what someone who is retired at this particular point is looking from their alumni association, and a young alumnus or alumna is looking for are very different. And I think that goes to what's in our current engagement strategy, and really looking at trying to make data-derived decisions from our survey and our focus groups that really kind of gave us an idea of what, for instance, young alumni are looking for. And that way we can target some of the content that we're providing for them in order to make sure that they're getting out of the association what they would like to have. And for instance, it seems like professional development and networking is very important when you're in the younger stage of the alumni life cycle, at least for those that are alumni UNB. And that's where we are going to try to adjust the content that we have in order to make sure that we're meeting those particular needs and keeping the engagement up, even though it's not necessarily the same type of engagement that you might necessarily see from someone who is, again, retired. So hopefully that's something where with this new plan and with some of the information that we are receiving as feedback from our membership, we can change tack if we're not getting the engagement that we're looking for, and make sure that we are meeting the needs of our membership.
Thank you for that, Pete. Another thing, Haley, this summer we when we did our focus groups, we actually had one group that was an under 35 group, and we got so much great information from that group about our communications efforts, and we completely changed how we will be communicating with the under 35 audience moving forward, and we have some plans. They inspired a lot of our changes, and so I think as we move beyond that, move into our events and other engagement and outreach, it would be good to do another series of focus groups with the under 35 group to hear a little bit more about what we can do in that space. So the next question is for you, I believe, Paul, by what I'm seeing here, and it's also from someone I know. Hi, Diane. Diane Reed is asking, how will UNB be incorporating elements of its heritage? And so there's specific reference here to Alden Nolan House, the founding of the world's Flat Earth Society is in Alden Nolan House, the involvement of Walter Learning, the director and founder of Theatre New Brunswick, and that of Senator David Adams Richards and writer Ray Fraser and others. So we have a rich history on the creative side of the house from UNB, and I know Diane's closely tied to that rich history, and wondering how we'll be incorporating that.
It's a great question. Thank you, Diane, for that question. And it speaks to a number of things. One is we have a very impressive history as a university, but also we have a very impressive history in the creative side, the cultural side, and the writing side, though. So UNB has lots to be proud of that history. And so I think the opportunity for us going forward is two things jump out. Number one, we need to maintain the momentum of that tradition of creative writing, of celebrating literature, and celebrating kind of creative industries, creative outputs, theater. I've mentioned to a number of people, the University of New Brunswick's got a wonderful opportunity to boost more in the creative space in things such as maybe establishing a UNB film school, looking at our film researchers and our film studies people. So it's a long way of saying that we need to maintain the tradition of excellence which honors that legacy. But the second issue is to showcase that legacy. We need to remind ourselves of the importance that we have these icons of our past, the Alden Nolans and the others that you mentioned, who are really pioneers in the sense that they've made major contributions both to literature and to creative outputs and the creative community of UNB. And so we want that to be celebrated. So we don't want to forget that. We want to be working with our faculty and staff and our alumni and saying, how do we keep celebrating that, whether we're doing lecture series or a book series, but keeping the consciousness high of these incredible achievements of our institution.
Thank you for that, Paul. Our next question is from Anonymous, so I can't make a shout out to them. I can't tell them that I know them. It's for Pete, and it's a great question. Wondering, Pete, if we have plans to conduct more focus groups among our alumni, and if so, how does an alumni participate or feel that their voice is being heard?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the focus groups that we held recently were to really kind of enrich the information that we had gleaned from our survey. And it really kind of revolved around things like how we communicate with our constituency. And that's something that we will be doing in the future again in order to make sure that, what we're going to try to do here with our particular strategic plan is to try to make that, again, data-derived decisions. So, the focus groups provide qualitative information that really help inform our decisions, and we're going to do it again to see how we're doing, and hopefully that we are doing well, and we'll find out areas where we need to concentrate more on and work in order to be able to make sure that that our membership is heard. So. We will be conducting them again in the future at some particular point. And I guess in terms of participating, that would be something where you contact our office and to let us know that you're interested. That would be something you can add to that, Michelle.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to add to that. So we got so much great information from the focus groups this summer, and it was really clear to me after that we needed to do more of them. And I hope the people that participated this summer will know that their voice was heard when they see all the changes we're rolling out this fall and into the future, where everything we're doing from a communications perspective was really guided by what our alumni have told us. And the only thing that I would add to that in terms of getting involved, I know that so many of you want to get involved in the work that we're doing, and we want you involved. And I know that we'll be launching soon a new platform for people to be able to go in and sign up to volunteer for us in a number of different ways, and that might include focus groups. So we're often looking for people to volunteer and don't always know quite how to reach people. So if you want to reach us, you can reach us anytime. Just email alumni@umb.ca, and Jenny on our team will make sure it gets to the right person. We have a really fun question for you next, Paul. It's from Dahlia. I don't know Dahlia, sorry. I shouldn't have started that because now there's pressure to say hi to people. So Paul, this next question is, what does a typical day look like in your life? How do you prioritize and balance between the numerous commitments and areas of focus? Great question.
That's a very good question. My wife asks me that every week as well. So a typical day is it's busy. Lots of meetings, lots of now Zoom or Teams calls, but also the recognition that you have to expect the unexpected. So I was telling somebody in my team the other day, I just jumped in the shower and I came out and we had a crisis. So like anything can happen in any given day on campus, and because we have a complex community, things can happen. So a typical day is it's busy. You're talking with stakeholders, you're meeting with people, but ultimately the underlying priority is you're trying to advance the interests of the university. And so on some days that might be dealing with direct COVID issues. The next day you might be talking to some members of our alumni, you might be talking to politicians. This week I was engaged with the Universities Canada board and talking about things that are affecting the entire higher education sector. So one of the exciting aspects of the job is the diversity of things you get to do on any run of a day, but there's no shortage of opportunities and things to address. So it's a great question. There's a bit of triage that has to happen from day to day as well.
I would think having the strategic vision helps you to stay on track a bit, though. At least it's something to guide you, and when you're having a hard time prioritizing, you can go right back to that.
Well, it allows you to put up the ruler and say, well, this new opportunity that's come in from left field, does it fit with where we want to go? Yeah. So we can help us say no to things.
Yeah, there's probably 1,000 ideas a day that come your way, and you have to decide which ones to focus on.
That's true. That's true.
So, Paul, you touched a little bit on it when you were speaking and then again just now, but I'm wondering, I know that our alumni care a lot about the student experience, and I know that we've received in the alumni office a few questions from people about the experience for students right now during the pandemic when most people aren't taking their classes on campus. And I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about some of the things the university has done specifically in that space to help ensure that the quality of education and the student experience for those students, the supports we provide them are still what people expect from UNB.
Yeah, no, it's a really important question and something that we've been putting a lot of effort into in the last 8 months. I mean, on one side of this is about the preparedness. And so we ran the clock 12 months. None of us was saying, faculty members weren't necessarily excited about having to pivot quickly and to put everything in a virtual format. Having said that, one area that's we've been focusing on to ensure that students have as good as experiences as possible in the virtual context is the faculty have actually rolled up their sleeves to take professional development about how to do online education better, how to be more effective. And so over 600 UNB faculty members took professional development this summer to improve the online educational experience. The second thing is when we think about things like experiential learning, some people say, well, how are you going to do that in this COVID context? We've had a great deal of success over the summer and now in that we have an experiential learning office, we have co-op offices, and they're out there talking to businesses and still looking for opportunities for our students in a virtual context, so they can actually get involved with companies and getting involved with real life, real world experiences, even in a virtual context. The third issue that's really important, we're working with our student government, talking with them in our student services sections to say, how do we make sure we can keep students connected? How do we make sure that we can give students support if they need it, be it health support or other kinds of pastoral support? So we're trying to be as flexible and as accessible as we can. But we know that people are, it's a stressful time for students and whatnot. I will say, in some of our faculty, there's some silver lining in there. We have faculty who've said, I'm never ever going to teach online. And some of them come back and said, you know what, I'm engaging with my students differently. And some of their grades are going up. So we're actually finding in some courses, students have chance to rewatch lectures. So because it's taped, in some courses they can tape it, and it's affecting some student grades. So I think out of this, we need to take away the learnings that really we can say, well, what are the things that we learned from this that we can help students in the future? So there might well be some silver linings going forward. I certainly hope so.
Yeah, I've been really proud to watch some of the things that are still happening from an experiential education point of view. One of our Alumni Student Leadership Award recipients this year did an Instagram takeover for us on our alumni site a little while ago on Instagram, and it was all about a day in the life in the Marine semester. So she's down in the Huntsman Marine Center. It was an awesome way to see that they're still engaging in that experiential education. Wow. So yeah,
that's terrific.
Yeah. So I think we have time for one more question. It's from Anonymous again. Thank you, Anonymous. So they're wondering for you, Paul, what is UNB's approach to recruitment, specifically in attracting students not only from out of the province, but also internationally? And that's colored a bit by the current climate of COVID-19 and the unpredictable future.
It is. No, it's a great question because, as I said, we think the world needs more UNB, but we need students to come and experience the university. And you could imagine that recruitment is stalled or stopped in this context, and it really hasn't. And so we've got a fantastic recruitment team led by Lloyd Henderson and his team. And I know as part of the strategic vision document, they were ramping up their activities and their engagement. And so what we found is obviously it's harder to get into high schools with recruitment officers, so they have to be quite creative. It's still possible. But we're also thinking, internationally and nationally about getting our message out there and getting some of our officers. So there's a lot more virtual engagement happening in high schools around Canada than ever before. Internationally, we have developed a suite of webinars for going to recruitment conferences in our sessions. And what we find is that some of the webinars have been oversubscribed. So normally when you're going to have an information session in Vietnam or Brazil, there'd be 40 or 50 people. Now they're having triple-digit people signing up for webinars to find out about the University of New Brunswick. The other thing I will say also is that we actually have some recruitment officers. We have a recruitment officer in China, for instance, and she has COVID. There's been quite a bit of recovery in China, so she's out working the fairs, engaging with high schools, And so there's a great deal of engagement we're happening in China at the moment about promoting UNB and looking for opportunities. We know that many international students want to come, so that's been a focus. But we do know that there's been impact on travel. Thankfully, that's starting to loosen up at the moment. And so we think, September 2021, we're very excited. We think there's going to be an upsurge of international interest. But more to the point, in New Brunswick and around Atlantic Canada and Canada, we're telling our story. And there's reasons why, we're pushing UNBs here, because we think, we can have a national impact. We've got fantastic programs. And, many people in the world are asking questions about, there's a safe haven down there in Atlantic Canada. New Brunswick's done a great job at managing COVID, which is not to overstate the importance of the risk, but which is to say the lifestyle here is very, very beneficial. And we've got great programs, so hopefully students from other parts of Canada can come experience what we all experienced in the past. So recruitment is different, but still I'm confident it'll be effective.
That's great. Yeah, we have someone, you were saying, based in China, right? So she lives there all the time. And
she does.
Yeah, that's a great strategy.
She's a very impressive individual.
Yeah. So we're just about at the end of our hour, but we did have one more question come in for Pete. It's a hypothetical. It sounds like Anonymous is asking this question for a friend, Pete. So they're wondering, how challenging is it to juggle volunteering with Alumni Council and feel you are meaningfully contributing while balancing all the demands of life and a career? I know you also have a busy career. So.
Yes, I do, but I'm lucky enough that my employer actually encourages us to volunteer in the community, and so that's very, very helpful for me. But yes, there is a balancing act there in terms of having a full-time job and life outside of that, and also volunteering with the Alumni Council. But at the same point, it's not overly demanding in the sense that it doesn't allow to do other things, and it's really rewarding. So it's just like anything else outside of work. You get to meet really fascinating people and work with really talented people. The work that you do, you can really see the impact of it. So it's very very rewarding in that way, and it's definitely something where. I think it can be done, and I really encourage people to look at the volunteer side of things. And it can be something where you could volunteer with council, or you could be part of our new volunteer platform that volunteer in different ways and see what it's like, and then from there you could decide whether or not you're interested in council. But it really is, if that's something that you're interested in and passionate in. And you want to give back to UNB, then I really encourage someone to look to volunteer with the Alumni Association.
On that note, I'll make a shameless plug for us. We will be searching for new councillors. We'll be doing a call out soon. So that's a convenient question that was posed from someone watching. We will be doing a call soon. The nominating committee will be looking for some new councillors to join us in July is when the new terms will start. So so thank you for that, Pete. So I really could chat with both of you all evening. We have lots that we could talk about, but we are at the end of our hour, so I'm going to wrap up. I did want to thank again the team at the VU Conference Center. It was so nice being back in a place where I feel so comfortable, and one of my favorite places to do events. And it was great to be able to welcome all of you to join us this evening. You don't have to let this interaction end tonight. You can send us any questions that you have at any time to alumni@umb.ca. As I say that, I know Jenny is thinking, thanks, I'm going to get lots of emails tomorrow, but please do send any questions or comments or feedback to us anytime, and we're happy to get back to you. I really am looking forward to a day when Paul and Peter and I can be out there seeing all of you in person, hosting our events again and meeting you face to face. But in the meantime, I hope you'll join us for some of our future virtual events that we will host in the coming year. Thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great evening.
Where is the University of New Brunswick? It's anywhere our people are harnessing the power of their creativity. It's wherever they're imagining new possibilities for a better world. It's where we help you find your future. Where is the University of New Brunswick? It's anywhere our people are empowering their communities. It's wherever they're becoming catalysts for change and improving lives. It's where we help you find your future.